Good afternoon, and welcome to the Spring 2015 SWOG Group Meeting General Plenary Session. Our theme today is Going Global. Now that I've finished binge-watching House of Cards Season 3, we're actually going to start domestically with a call-out to my favorite president, President Frank Underwood. Talking about this mythical official leads us to open with an amusing story, which I offer to you in the inimitable style established by Chair Emeritus Dr. Larry Baker. It seems Harry Goldberg has been elected President of the United States, the first Jewish man or woman to reach the White House. He's very proud, and he phones his mother in New York to invite her to the inauguration. She puts up arguments about hating trains, not having the right clothes, the non-kosher food. He counters by promising a pickup by Air Force One, having the Secret Service take her to Bloomingdale's, and making sure Zabar's does the catering. She says, okay, I suppose just this once I can come. Inauguration day arrives. Mrs. Goldberg is in the front row next to the Secretary of State. Harry's called up to take the oath to be our next president. His mother can barely contain her pride. She digs the secretary in the ribs and says, "Hey, you see that boy Harry? His brother Sid is a very successful doctor." Sadly, the same thing happened when I told my parents about being elected chair of this esteemed group. My brother Scott is also a doctor, but he's a surgeon. Here, though, is something even my brother has not done. The SWOG Fall Meeting 2013 was the venue in which I first publicly spoke of the possibility of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro on behalf of the Hope Foundation and all the volunteers who paid it forward by taking part in our cancer clinical trials. In fact, the stated goals of the expedition were to honor our trial participants, to raise awareness of clinical cancer research and funding shortfalls for same, and to raise some money for the very important work SWOG does. Earlier this year, that possibility became reality. The climb took place, and I believe we achieved all of these goals. As you may know, we raised more than $110,000. I want to offer thanks to the donors. Now, I know everyone hates home movies, but I had to show just a couple of highlights from the trip. So first, a 20,000-foot mountain is nothing to sneeze at. I prepared by sleeping in this high-altitude tent for 6 weeks before I left Portland. Our fundraiser actually got quite a bit of press, and the TV reporter particularly liked having me crawl into this thing on camera, fully dressed. Despite claims by my detractors that I was sleeping with a baby rattle to soothe my nerves, I point out this blue object as a measuring gauge, reminding me the oxygen fraction I was inhaling hovered just below 10%, a very important safety feature. I bought it after I accidentally cranked this thing up to Mount Everest heights. The mountain itself, the tallest freestanding volcano in the world, is absolutely gorgeous. It looks strangely like South Sister in Oregon, which I had the pleasure to climb last year, but which is only 10,000 feet high and which did not require my sleeping in a high-altitude tent first. The nighttime views were particularly spectacular. This time-lapse photo shows some headlamps moving around camp, but I'll also call your attention to the stars I had the pleasure of sleeping under for 8 evenings in a row. Lava Tower, a most majestic structure, and please ignore the non-majestic green outhouse you see at the front of the picture, resides at 15,000 feet, the site of our second highest camp. This was the last day before a freak snowstorm hit. Same place next day. Doesn't look like much yet, but this was pretty early on. The storm almost caused us to abort the climb and did force a summit attempt 1 day early. These glaciers on a plain at 18,800 feet elevation used to be tenfold higher. Sadly, they're going to be completely gone in just a few years. But far and away, the most memorable moment of the climb is the one you see captured here. The banner with the initials of 200,000 of our volunteers from a half-century of SWOG studies has now returned from the roof of Africa and is hanging out in the hall right outside this room. Please check it out while you're here. And again, let's take a moment to say thanks to our clinical trials heroes. For those interested, the donations webpage remains open for 2 more weeks. Feel free to visit it and whatever else you might wish to do while you're there. My last words regarding the Kilimanjaro climb are thank you to all of you who contributed in any way to the success of this undertaking. Now we turn to transitions, always bittersweet for us. I, for one, will truly miss Madman Don Draper. But for SWOG, happily, this has been a period of remarkable peace, prosperity, and stability. So actually nothing to report this meeting from the group. We will have several new faces to introduce you to in the fall. While I can't tie this into any of my favorite TV shows, we have lots of folks to recognize, starting with the recipients of SWOG and Hope Foundation research support. The Coltman Fellowship Program was established to honor the legacy of SWOG's former group chair by engaging outstanding young investigators in learning clinical trial methodology in a cooperative group environment. This year's Dr. Charles A. Coltman Jr. Fellowship goes to Dr. Sarah Goldberg of the Yale Cancer Center, Dr. Joseph Unger of the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center, and Dr. Steven Hu-Liskevin of UCLA. Dr. Goldberg's award will support her research on treatment for non-small cell lung cancer, and you'll hear more about this in just a moment. Dr. Unger's award will help further his work as a health services researcher and biostatistician. Dr. Unger, of course, is well known to most of you as the statistician for SWOG's Cancer Control and Prevention Committee. Dr. Hu-Liskevin's fellowship will allow her to conduct a study of mutational load in response to PD-1 blockade in patients with melanoma. Doctors, please stand and be recognized. Congratulations. STARS Awards are designed to support trial components that need supplemental funding during patient enrollment in a SWOG study. The awards provide up to $75,000 per year for up to 2 years. Our first SWOG Trial Support Award was made last month in support of the in-development study S1403, a randomized phase 2-3 trial comparing afatinib with and without cetuximab in treating patients with advanced EGFR mutation-positive non-small cell lung cancer. This STARS Award provides critical bridge funding that may be needed to get the study activated. S1403's PI is Yale Cancer Center's Dr. Sarah Goldberg, and while she's not related to the previously mentioned President Harry Goldberg, she is the same Dr. Goldberg we just congratulated as a new Coltman Fellow. Dr. Goldberg, please stand again. We do want to say congratulations. The objective of the SWOG Hope Rare Cancers Fellowship is to provide protected time for a clinical investigator who's committed to strengthening SWOG's progress and trial portfolio in rare cancers. No kidding. But working within SWOG's Early Therapeutics and Rare Cancer Committee, the Rare Cancer Fellow will focus on a programmatic development, culminating in our opening a new trial in a rare malignancy within a 2-year period of the award. The review committee just recently announced that the SWOG Hope Rare Cancers Fellowship will be awarded to Dr. Victor Villalobos of the University of Colorado, whose research is focused on sarcoma subtypes. I don't actually know if Dr. Villalobos is here, but we will congratulate anyway. One of the Hope Foundation's newest juried award programs is the SEED Fund, SWOG Early Exploration and Development. These awards encourage preliminary research with the potential to translate to future clinical trials or trial-associated projects within SWOG in the NCTN. The first round of SEED Fund grants has just been awarded as well. One of the first SEED awards goes to co-recipients, Drs. Christopher Liu and Scott Kopetz, for a project gathering preclinical data that will potentially result in a future SWOG GI study. The other inaugural SEED Fund award is to Dr. Heather Greenlee for a project building on SWOG study S1008, which looked at the efficacy of an exercise and diet intervention to promote weight loss in survivors of breast or colorectal cancer. I know Dr. Kopetz couldn't be here today, and I know Dr. Liu is here. Can't speak for Dr. Greenlee, but please stand. Yep, and Dr. Greenlee, thank you. We congratulate all three on receiving these inaugural SEED Fund awards. The SWOG Hope Foundation Impact Award encourages novel and innovative SWOG research by supporting early conceptual stages of important projects that use resources from completed SWOG studies or that promise to be directly translatable to future SWOG NCTN studies. Our first Impact Award for 2015 goes to Dr. Mark Lorio, PI, and Dr. Stephen Spurgeon, co-PI, both of Oregon Health and Sciences University, for their project Personalizing Treatment for Newly Diagnosed AML using a novel ex vivo screen. Both physicians had previous academic obligations, but we can congratulate them in their absence. The next round of Impact Award applications will be due September 1st. I am quite grateful to the Hope Foundation, which of course makes possible the Impact Awards, the SEED Fund grants, the Rare Cancers Fellowship, the STARS grants, and the Coltman Fellowships we've just recognized. Here's a brief look at the Hope Foundation funding programs still taking applications in 2015. The next one up, with an application due 2 weeks from today, is the SWOG Virtual Grant Writing Workshop. Applications to our highly successful Young Investigator Training course are due by July 1st, as are applications to the SEED Fund. And once again, the next round of applications for the Impact Award is due September 1st. Details on all these programs and many others are on the Hope Foundation website at thehopefoundation.org. Before we move away from these research awards, I want to extend thanks to all the members who served on the review committees for these awards just announced. We don't have time to thank them individually, but they're listed here. Thank you collectively. The work of our researchers is always well represented at the ASCO annual meeting. This year, SWOG has authorship on at least 30 2015 abstracts that we know of, including 8 accepted for oral presentation with 1 late-breaking abstract. Congratulations to all. Office hours and roundtable discussions have become fixtures at our semi-annual face-to-face meetings. I'm proud that this is such a busy slide, though I won't read it to you in its entirety. Beside a number of opportunities to meet with SWOG insiders and leaders, we have at this meeting 8 of our industry partners who have made representatives available for one-on-one appointments with SWOG investigators. We'll thank everybody who is taking the time to meet with our members. And though I won't show you a picture of peeled grapes this time around, I do want to remind you that our Hope Donors Lounge is available for those who have made contributions to the foundation. It's in Regency A and is a great place to relax between sessions, grab a cup of coffee, do a quick email check with free Wi-Fi, or just decompress and rest in peace for a few moments. Ooh, that did not sound good. Rest for a few moments. Got to check these scripts more carefully. Luckily, if you're not a contributor, you can become one in a matter of 2 minutes at the Hope table out in the lobby, after which the lounge awaits you. Don't miss it. We are quite honored today to have with us the directors of the National Cancer Institutes of Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. They are Dr. Carolina Wiesner of the NCI of Colombia, Dr. Abelardo Meneses of the NCI of Mexico, and Dr. Tatiana Vidura of the National Institute of Neoplastic Diseases of Peru. If I could ask you, doctors, to please stand up, we'd really like to welcome you and thank you for attending. Our esteemed visitors joined us last evening at a retreat which outlined some next steps in further developing something particularly near and dear to the NCI and to SWOG, a U.S. Latin American cancer research network. We'll hear Dr. Thomas Gross from the NCI Center for Global Health discuss this undertaking a little later in this plenary session. It's an initiative SWOG has been involved with for some time now. We're hard at work on a formal agreement under which SWOG might contribute expertise in running large-scale clinical research networks in an advisory role, plus to provide dedicated statistical support and education from our Stats and Data Management Center. Group statistician Michael LeBlanc and I have made several trips to South America in recent months to meet with network and global health leadership and to work out potential details of SWOG's involvement in the new network. Nathan Erickson, Executive Officer Manuel Valdivieso, and our administrative team have completed a memorandum of understanding outlining our group's efforts and a budget detailing costs involved. There may be a teeny tiny grant application as well. Dr. Valdivieso is also forming an official international SWOG working group even as we speak. You will hear much more on SWOG's potential contributions to the U.S. Latin America Cancer Research Network in the months to come, once we have a final agreement or notice of award in place.